Welcome. I'm your host, Dr. Jane Mountrose. I want to welcome you to the Circle of Love and Light. I'm here with my wonderful co-host and fellow spiritual coach and healer, Gretchen Comer. So welcome, Gretchen. This week, we're going to do something a little different, although it may become more the norm in the future. We're going to explore the significance of the spring season, which we have been doing, and the environment as we open to the mystical blessings of trees. So we're going to be talking about communing with trees. And to begin, we'll talk about what what this is all about, what this means, and how the mystical energy of trees can enhance our lives in this spring season, because the wood element is an element that's related with springtime. And it's also, trees are of huge value, I think, to us all year round. In fact, we were actually just not in relation to this particularly, but just talking about trees before we started. It was funny, interestingly. Anyhow, I think also because we're talking with light workers, spiritual healers, way showers, that kind of people, which is what we are. I want to get I just want to open the chat. It also relates to, I think, our next step in our evolution, which is having a broader sense of reality than what we now see with our five senses. A sense of reality where we have an awareness of the environment as a living being and the different aspects of the environment. And of course, the beings of light who are reaching to us from the higher realms, that becomes a part of our daily reality just as much as what's happening in politics or whatever, hopefully more. Anyhow, I think that's one of the reasons we want to focus on this in the circle, because it has deeper meaning to us spiritually for each one of us. And I know both of us and many others already are having that experience. I see Lula's here. Hi, Lula. Wonderful to see you. Anyhow, so we're going to be doing that. We'll be doing a special tree meditation. And we're going to also do a reading. We don't know exactly where this is all going, which is part of the mystery and the mysticalness of it all. So we'll just start as usual by breathing, taking a few breaths to bring our energy together. If you can close your eyes safely where you are, that might feel good. This is just brief, inviting in love and light from the universe around us, all those beings of love and light who are surrounding us always. Just bringing that in with nice big inhales. Beautiful nurturing breaths, and releasing with the exhale, letting go of anything we don't need in this moment. And with just a few of these breaths, I think we can feel like we're more in our bodies and more present with each other. That feels good. And of course, as always, I want to thank you for joining us. Being a carrier or a person who is committed to sharing love and light with the world is a huge service right now. And I think we underestimate the value that we have. So I invite you to say hi if you're here, like Lula, and tell us where you're from if you're new. Also, feel free to comment. We love to hear from you and ask questions, whatever. There's a bunch of hearts from Lula. Thank you. And to begin, I'd just like to turn to you, Gretchen, and ask you to share a bit about your perspective. I know you've been working with nature for many, many years. So what is your perspective on opening to the mystical blessings of trees?
Sure, Jane, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel that because we're here having this earth experience, it makes sense to align with those natural rhythms of the cycles, the season. And trees have such wonderful energy because they really anchor a lot of the earth energy out in nature. So when we're outdoors, it's very easy to attune with that wonderful kind of constant vibration that is that earth energy. And of course, trees are wonderful resources of oxygen. And I'm always reminded of a very easy thing that we can do in the morning before dawn. Brooke Medicine Eagle, she is a woman that teaches Native American tradition. And she taught me years ago that you go out right before dawn, before the sun's had a chance to burn off the oxygen that's been building all night underneath the canopy of a tree. So if you have a favorite tree with a nice canopy of branches, go sit underneath it, she says, or stand underneath it and just take some nice deep breaths. It really does help ground you, and you get the freshest, most purest oxygen, which I think is fabulous because it's like free oxygen therapy, you know.
Yeah,
But
that
it's
sounds
great to
great.
do that before the sun comes up, before the sun burns off all of that additional oxygen that it's releasing. So trees give us so much in so many different ways. They help us ground. They have a very calming energy. Uh,
Right.
and yet they're uplifting too, which is, you know, this interesting mix of beautiful gifts that they're giving us, and they're inspirational. You know, that trees are beautiful. We see, especially deciduous trees, that we see change throughout the seasons. For those of us that live in parts of the world, we really see a change of the seasons. Trees are like these guardians of the land. They're always there. They're always providing, you know, either fruit for animals or us, or they're providing shade, or they're providing coverage of some sort, home for animals. They just provide so much beautiful energy. And I'm a tree hugger since I was a I've been hugging trees since I was a little girl, and I still do it. It's just a wonderful blessing. And trees are always in the background. You know, I think we might overlook trees sometimes. We might just assume they're part of the landscape and not much else, but they really offer us so much wonderful energy, and they help us align with the natural rhythms of nature, you know, by observing the change of seasons. And so yeah, I could go on for hours about trees.
Right.
Just love trees.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. And Lula does too. She says, for me, trees are like my big siblings.
Right, exactly. And they're constant. It's, you know, the amazing lifespan of a lot of different kinds of trees, a lot of different species of trees is amazing in itself. I know, Jane, you live near, not too far from where you can visit some redwoods, and
Right.
some of the oldest trees on the planet, you know, and just imagine all of the changes they've seen happen in the forest, all if they could just tell us, you know, all the things they could tell us with all of their wisdom. But
Right. Yeah,
just
and we like to go visit them in the early morning. We're going to go, actually, we're going to the Bay Area next month, sometime soon. And we're going to go to one of our favorite redwood parks. I think they are, there's something very, well, the redwoods, the way they reach up so high into the sky and can just feel the depth that they have moving into the earth and connecting. It's interesting what they say about how the roots of trees connect.
mm-hmm.
So
Right.
they're not like isolated. They actually are touching each other and communicating with each other. It is really beautiful. And for me, it is, I think, just what you said, is very grounding and calming. When I go, I can see it now going to the redwoods and how wonderful that experience is. It's one of my favorite things. I like to go early in the morning before there are many people in the redwood park, and the deer come out. And I think one time recently we saw wild turkeys, and it's magical.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's just so wonderful. Also, you don't have to go to the redwoods to appreciate trees. I keep telling Gretchen, we have this beautiful birch tree, and I look this way because it's right outside the window there. It's so beautiful. And I think it's interesting, the trees that we have right around us in our yard or just nearby, they they communicate with us. I feel like I go out in the morning, Philip and I walk the dogs every morning, and I go out and I feel like all of the trees and the rose bushes and everything are saying hello to me when I go out. And that one beautiful birch tree is just especially charming to me. There's something really, and that it's a different energy. It's a different energy from a redwood tree, a very different, it makes me think actually more of your background is kind of more lacy and actually feminine in a way, the birch tree. It seems like the redwoods are very masculine, just very, very, well, they're in control of their environment. I think I just think of their height and how they can see all around them for who knows. I went to a park nearby too, and I hugged hugged a pine tree, and that one, it was one of the biggest pine trees in the area, and the tallest. It was very, very tall, and of course, hugging it, it's like this big big thing, and it let me take a piece of bark back so that I could connect with it here. And I think it is wonderful to have things like this too, because I hold this bark and I feel that tree again.
Right. We press leaves in the fall when they change color. I put it
Yeah.
between two sheets of wax paper, and then we stick them in like a real thick book on the bookshelf, like a dictionary. And later on, it's a memory. I pull that out later on and look at the beautiful orange color or the yellow color, and it's just gorgeous. And I love spring because spring is a real showy time for a lot of different tree species too. So a lot of them bloom. And spring is just a wonderful time to see all of that beauty, all of the color and the fragrance. And it's just amazing. And spring is such a beautiful time to really, really witness trees changing. And as the blossoms fall off, the leaves come in, and then you suddenly have this beautiful green canopy, and it's just gorgeous. They give us so much in invisible beauty as well as so many other ways. So
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote down a few things that I read on the internet about the wood phase. So the wood phase, which is related to spring, is marked by the smooth process of becoming, like the first green sprouts bursting above the soil's grasp, or the wayward weed miraculously whirling its tender face through the cracks in the sidewalk. Wood is the energy of germination, birth, arousal, creativity, imagination, passion, growth, determination, and hope. It's a lot of things. Wood is that which propels all life forms into the active manifestation of their authentic nature and destiny.
Wow.
That's a lot.
They're even more powerful than I realized.
Right.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
like you were saying, they come alive in the spring, and they remind you that life is reemerging and reemerging anew in a larger way than the year before. I was also noting with the birch tree, Philip and I were talking about it this morning. It just feels so much bigger this year. It almost fills that whole front yard area. It's just for a birch tree, pretty large, and really beautiful.
Lovely. Yeah, I love birch trees. They're beautiful. We have those up north. We don't have them so much in Virginia where I live, but we have them up north in New England, and they're gorgeous. They're one of my favorite things. I love them.
Yeah. So we were thinking also of doing a reading. So I thought I would draw a card from the Angel Wisdom Tarot, which the major arcana I separated the major arcana out of the deck. And in this particular tarot, which is angelic, there is an angel associated with each of the cards. And of course, there also is a message. So we can ask for just what is in our highest good with our subject today with spring. And I like that process of becoming that we're in with spring. So you ready?
I am, yes.
Okay. Lula says, wow, yesterday I read about the qualities of wood, checking my note of the earth elements according to the Chinese culture, right? Yeah. Before I do this, that reminds me, I think one of the reasons I mentioned that we might be seeing more of this in the circle is the circle does provide us with the opportunity to tune into the seasons and to tune into the elements as they are progressing through the year. And we spoke the other day about how everything exists because of the four elements. Wood is one of the elements in Chinese medicine, which is part of the earth element in the four element theory. Everything exists only because of the four elements, which is interesting if you think about it. Fire, air, water, and earth. If any of them were missing, we would not be here. So if we underestimate, if we think, well, this is kind of silly, it's not at all silly. It's actually related directly to who we are and what we're experiencing throughout the year here as human beings. So here we go.
I agree. I agree.
Did you want to say a little more about that before?
No, I just think it's funny that you said that, because I have literally said that to people. We would not be here if it were not for the four elements.
Right.
Yeah. And they're gifts. They're beautiful gifts from the universe to help us sustain life. And each of them gives so much, and each season is assigned to a element. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. This is interesting. We also right now it's a new moon, and the card that we got is the moon. And the angel is Hanyal. It says, listen to your intuition and pay attention to signs from the divine. Unnecessary worry. Let go of your fears. Revelations that will make everything clear.
I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that relates to our topic and the topic of spring, because with new beginnings, there might be fears that come up. Going into the unknown, trying something new, taking a leap, taking a risk. I think those are things that go along with that spring energy. And when we first feel spring coming in, it's a little frenetic. It's a little chaotic sometimes. The weather might be crazy. It's like we're shaking off the shackles of winter or something, and it just gets a little frenetic. And that birth energy where everything is bursting and coming forth and being born into the newness of spring, it has a lot of serious active energy, because nature's on a timeline. Nature has to follow a certain, it's got deadlines.
It's now or never.
Right, exactly. So I feel like that happens, and I think with that comes those fears that come up for us. Trying something new, being in the newness of spring. So yeah.
Well, and with that in mind too, hugging a tree is very balancing and calming. If you're looking at worries and fears that emerge with all of the changes that are occurring at this time of year, hugging a tree can be a wonderful experience.
Right.
Or just sitting under a tree.
Right. I was going to say, it's a great place just to take a pause in your day,
right,
for 10 minutes, just to go out and sit with a tree, how calming, how just loving that energy is. It's constant. It's that beautiful consistency, that constant energy of that's always there for us,
Right. And who knows, you might run into a gnome too.
That's right. You never know.
One of other little friends hanging around. Yeah. But I think that's a beautiful message. And I can read a little bit of what Radley Valentine, who created this, what he says about Archangel Haniel, because she's very wonderful. If you were drawn to this deck, you've already demonstrated that you're very interested in developing your divine gifts, becoming more intuitive, and heightening your spirituality. Therefore, Archangel Haniel is almost certainly someone you'd want to work with. Her name means the grace of God. Haniel is the angel I call upon before doing readings, even for myself. She also specializes in women's issues and is known to appear silvery blue in color. So we can connect with Haniel, that beautiful silvery blue color. it's interesting. Also, Gretchen and I were talking the other day about intuition, because I have some challenges with my eyes, and I was relating those to my intuition, to needing to trust my intuition more and strengthen my pineal gland, and all of that makes sense. Just heightening our awareness at this time of year. It's such an opportunity for all of us as we're emerging from that kind of time of rest in the winter into what, as Gretchen mentioned, can become kind of chaotic with spring. And especially now, we're just coming out of Mercury retrograde, which we were talking about earlier too. And you mentioned about, did you want to mention about going in and coming out of Mercury retrograde? Because that's kind of, and that's interesting with the moon, the lunar phase, and all of this stuff happening.
There's a lot going on, and we had eclipse earlier. And so with Mercury retrograde, from what I understand, you feel it often coming in about a week before, and it has some residual energy on the week after too, as it goes direct, and that has a tendency to linger. It doesn't go direct like in the same in a moment. So it's
it isn't just like opening or closing a door.
It's not a switch. Yeah. It's not a switch. So it is gradually, much like the moon is phasing, it doesn't just turn full overnight. So so we just need to be aware of that it can affect things about a week before it goes retrograde and about a week after it goes direct. So it does have effect on us and our communication, especially. So they say, don't plan a lot of things, and if you feel really inspired during this time, don't make a lot of heavy duty decisions. Maybe wait until it goes direct. And my spiritual community always finds that it's a difficult time to have meetings. Communication gets all haywire. And, we misinterpret, we misunderstand each other. And things like that.
I was just talking with you about a conversation I had on the phone on Friday, and it was it was like all over the place, and right in the middle of it, my keyboard tray fell off of my my desk into my lap. It was pretty
just
crazy.
Disorganization, right? Yeah,
crazy.
A mess in your lap, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's part of following those natural rhythms, though. Much like we're following seasons, it really helps if we just we relax into that and just say, okay, Mercury's retrograde right now. I know that this could happen or this could happen, and you just take a breath and you work with that energy. Okay, so maybe this is the universe saying this isn't the best time to make this decision. Maybe this is I should wait. And what happens is, in that waiting, in that pause that you are gifting yourself with, something wonderful is going to happen. And by the time it goes direct and you're ready to make a decision, maybe you don't want to make that decision anymore. Maybe it's a different decision. So I think sometimes nature is helping us in that way. It really is. We just may not see it, in that moment. But
unless we're aware enough to actually reflect and tell ourselves to pull back. It's interesting. I was just thinking about surrendering. Lula says surrender.
Right.
and I kind of referred to, there are some other crazy things happening in our world here this week too. And this morning I was reflecting on them, and I did some violet flame energy and everything overnight, and I still was feeling it. And then a voice inside me said, surrender. It's like, okay, so these things are happening. What are you going to do about it? You have to just allow. If there's not anything you can do, which in this case is the case, you just have to allow it to be everything what it is. It is what it is. And also the message said, everything's going to come out fine.
Right.
And that, I think that's part of, to me, also listening to our intuition, because they're telling us a lot of times, don't worry about all these things.
Right.
It seems so important today, but like you were saying too, sometimes 3 days later, if you just allow yourself to surrender and be calm about it, everything looks different by the time you get back to thinking about it.
Right. That's an important thing to remember, especially from my perspective. For me, that's really important to remember. And again, that's another way of just moving with the flow of life, with the natural rhythms of nature.
Yeah.
Trees are great examples of that, especially if you see a deciduous tree and you can see the colors change and you can see it lose its leaves and you can see the new buds in the spring. It really is giving us a sense of timing and how everything happens in its season.
Right.
That's the way life is. It's a good metaphor for life, I think, too. Everything happens within reason, within its season. So
Yeah.
and that's a good reminder to me. Even the trees have to sleep in the winter time. We get very cold temperatures here in Virginia, and we get below, sometimes we do get below zero, and sometimes we do get, below freezing a lot during the winter. This was a mild winter, so it affected nature incredibly so. And I think that also has an impact on humans, but as we go. But to be able to see those stages of life in something like a tree is beautiful too. Again, it just becomes very metaphorical for life, and somehow is reaffirming to me, nature goes on, nature continues, life continues. And that's a beautiful affirmation for me as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Lula said, I have been in an intense surrendering training last year. And I think that's true for others too, more than
yes.
her. I think actually I've thought a lot about it because I hadn't experienced something. Now it's been a few years that caused me to have to surrender because I had a situation where I wasn't sure I was going to live. And it changes you. Although I did forget apparently this morning. But it is, I think if we can remember that surrendering is not giving up on who we are or why we're here. I think it's recognizing that there's a difference between feeling like we can control what's happening and that we can be, and this is just semantics too, however you want to set it up, that we can be in command of ourselves and the way we respond and move through life, but we can't control all of the forces that are around us that are impacting us.
Right. Yeah, that's actually very freeing though, once you come to that realization.
Right.
It really is, because it's like, oh, good, I'm not responsible for moving the planets and raising the sun every day. And thank God we don't have to do that. That's covered for us. So I think there's a lot of freedom in that, and there's something really beautiful in the center of that surrendering. There's a beautiful sense of calm. There's a beautiful sense of loving energy, I feel like, at the core of that. And I agree with Lula. I think there are a lot of us that have had, just a lot of challenges, especially just since January, just since the year turned this year. And for me, it really is about just letting go. That's the hardest thing we do as humans on some level, is letting go of our control. And but yeah, I think there's beauty inside of that, and there's a lot of freedom in surrendering, knowing that we don't have to do it all.
Right.
It's an illusion we buy into, to think we can control it all. So.
Right. Well, or that it even is beneficial.
Right.
I think it's interesting that part of being a human on the planet these days is that people tend to judge everything all the time. Like, this is happening and it's bad, or this is happening and it's good. That person's horrible, that person's wonderful. It's like black and white and good and bad, but it's everything. And it becomes pretty automatic that we keep doing that. We're judging things as if we know whether something is good or not, because it's interesting. I say this occasionally, and I haven't had the experience myself, but some people who have cancer say, well, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm sure that when they were told they had cancer, that wasn't the thought that came to mind.
Right.
But it is, I think we have to understand, it takes us back to the fact that life is happening for us, that whatever it is, there is a seed of good in it if we can look for it. The seed. We're planting those seeds now. And then we have to surrender to the outcome.
Right. I think trees are a good example for that too. I think, when a tree dies, you know, it returns to the earth, and it doesn't just disappear. That energy gets absorbed by that matrix that's in the soil that connects all the other trees, and that tree, as it decays, becomes more soil to provide more life for more microorganisms, and that continues and continues and continues, and it's just lovely. It's reaffirming, I think, to experience that and to witness that. And again, it's a metaphor for our lives too, you know. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you look at, like, if you're saying a tree dying, and I've been trying to understand more personally how everything relates in the elemental kingdom, but in a similar way to the human species kingdom and the angelic kingdom. My feeling about it is that there is a spirit behind the tree or behind the forest that is growing through the experience of the life of that tree. So there is a soul there that is still alive. And it's interesting. I've over the years doing spiritual healing and hypnotherapy, one of the things we do in hypnotherapy is past life regression. And there have been several times when people have regressed to being trees. And we do have the opportunity to interact with the other kingdoms, to actually a part of the soul can split off and move into one of the other kingdoms. And it was in those times when that happened, it was fascinating to hear that perspective.
I bet. I was just thinking how amazing it would be to come back as a big, beautiful oak tree or something. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Have people come sit underneath you or picnic, and just to have that different connection. I think that would be beautiful.
Well, we have the option to experience reality in different ways to enhance our growth.
Right.
And I think you can see it in that kind of thing in people, a person who would sit in a tree for 30 days because someone was going to chop it down. That person, in my mind, probably has a very strong relationship with trees beyond, I think trees are beautiful,
Right.
that
Right.
they may have been trees.
Right.
Or a species of animals, someone who is especially close to dolphins or to apes, or any species of animals may have had lives in those realms. There was this is a funny thing. This was years ago. I think the biography channel, we have to get to our meditation soon, but I'll just mention this because it's so funny. We were watching the biography. It's not a channel, I guess, but program show. I don't know if they still have that, but we used to watch it, and it was really interesting. And they were doing one on Jeff Bezos, the person who started Amazon.com, and they were talking about the kinds of things that he did, and I had thought about it before, and I was sitting there and I said to Philip, he's a dog. And I just could feel that dog energy in the way that he functioned. And right after that, within seconds on the TV, they said, and it's one of the only companies where they allow dogs in the office and they're running around in the hallways. Oh, interesting. But he kind of has that look too. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but and some people, some people look like birds. It may be, there may be a reason for that. I just think our perspective on reality is so narrow in relation to what actually is everything that's out there. Just fascinating. Anyhow, I think we need to do our tree meditation. I'm stuck, I guess. Anyhow, so okay. And we can invite Archangel Haniel to join us, the beautiful, beautiful angel. So we can imagine surrounding ourselves with that beautiful blue light, soft, beautiful, radiant blue light. And what we're going to do is now just imagine that you're standing on the ground and just imagine what it would be like to be a tree. And you can, if you feel like it, you can even hold your arms out like the branches of a tree. And just imagine the light of the sun flowing down over your leaves and branches and taking in all of that energy from the sun, allowing it to come down through your branches into your trunk, the beautiful, sturdy, tall trunk. And then down, all the way down through your legs and feet into the earth with roots, allowing the roots to go way down deep into the earth. Trees are a beautiful metaphor for our energetic makeup. So we want also to have our roots go down deep into the earth, imagining reaching that crystalline core and then taking in the nourishment from the earth through the roots, bringing it up all the way up to our feet and the trunk, our trunk, our legs and spine, all the way up, that beautiful, strong, sturdy trunk. And again, flowing out through the branches, so more leaves and maybe flowers and fruits, whatever it is that our tree is, is producing, that they can grow. And I see birds in the tree personally, reaching those leaves up toward the sun, which again is shining down. And you can just feel that energy shining down and flowing over you, the energy from our Creator and all of those beautiful beings of light who are nurturing us always. And now, and then coming all the way down. So we're creating a channel of light that goes all the way from the sun above us, from our source above us, all the way down through our bodies and into deep into the center of the earth, where we can also connect with Mother Earth herself, another beautiful being, elemental being. Feeling that love from the earth as we bring that love up. So we're bringing up love and nurturing energy from the earth into our bodies, and we can take them into all of our cells to nurture and nourish us. And open us to those kind of simple truths that you receive when you connect with a tree. Opening to our own intuition, as Hanyal suggests. Because within our intuition is the solution so many times to the fears and anxiety and momentums that we're in. Also, another beautiful benefit of trees, just staying still. So Gretchen, would you like to share?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I first envisioned being an oak tree and little acorns all over my tree with squirrels on my branches.
Mhm.
And then I suddenly morphed into a pine tree with pine cones and again squirrels on my branches eating the pine nuts and the pine cones. And then I turned into a really old holly tree, just smooth barked and really gnarled roots coming up out of the ground. And it just felt like going through eras, back through
Mhm.
eras. And I think
Mhm.
trees kind of feel like that to me. They have this age-old wisdom, no matter how young or how old they are. It's just a beautiful connective experience. And I could see almost in like a fast forward motion, or it was actually going back, rewinding, just all these different things changing on the planet and these trees that kind of were witness to all of these amazing things that have happened on the planet over the last several thousand years.
Mm-hmm.
It's really beautiful sunrises and sunsets and different season changes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really beautiful. Just feeling how their wisdom extends way, way back into ancient times. And we actually still have a few trees on the planet that are really ancient, over 1,000 years old, that are still in existence. And
Mm-hmm.
that is amazing to me. That's
It
just
is, yeah.
beautiful and
Mm-hmm.
connected.
And they do have an awareness of that, of their time and place. It's beautiful.
I also see the symbiotic relationship between the animals and the trees too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the
Animals just
birds.
right, exactly. Birds with nests on the branches and little bugs running up and down the trunk, and
Mm-hmm.
just so many things that can live in and amongst the trees and not actually kill the tree. They can actually take what they need from the tree, but the tree sustains life. So it really is a
Mm-hmm.
life giver as well, and helps have this relationship with so many other things, that it's part of the balance. I'm being shown that this is all part of the balance. Trees are a big part of our environment, and
Mm-hmm.
a big part of the balance of nature in the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Important to our environment.
Mm-hmm. I sense the trees connecting with each other and communicating in whatever way trees communicate with each other through a forest or an orchard. And then there's the spirit of the forest that brings it all into one. It's very calming.
It is.
And I also now with Archangel Haniel and the moon in mind can imagine now the sun going down and the moon coming out. Just feeling that soft feminine energy and the tree allowing that and taking that energy in too. But moon energy feels really good. Hmm. And of course, the essence of all those good feelings is that sense of connectedness, which is love, that they hold. So much of nature holds love for us and that sense of oneness when we're in nature. And even people who have no real awareness of it, they just love going hiking or they love going fishing and sitting out in a boat in a lake for hours, just being with the environment. And we can feel the blessing in that too. And recognizing we don't have to go, it's not like you have to travel 20 miles out of town to experience nature. It's in most cases, it's right around us. And if it's not, we have almost a forest inside our house of plants. You can invite it in and just appreciate the plants that are right around you, wherever you are. The trees and bushes, we have some beautiful rose bushes outside, which are just full of roses right now. So beautiful. And from here, it's easier to surrender too. It's interesting. Trees don't have the option of being in momentums and running around, but they don't miss it either. They experience the stillness in that sense of the place that they're in.
That's interesting you say that, Jane, because I feel like that was one of my first things, is I can't move, but then like amazing sense of freedom, like, oh, I don't have to move. I can
Right.
stay right here and it'll all work.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
can see why we would choose that as a lifetime. There's
Mm-hmm.
none of that chaotic energy.
Right. You
having
don't
to
have to
move.
worry about moving
Right.
momentums.
Right, exactly. Whereas there's all kinds of nutrients and things moving inside of the tree body. It's a different contained kind of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of see myself again as a tree, and all these people are running around wildly around me.
Right.
And I'm thinking, wow, they're really missing out.
Right, right. Just the steadfastness of the tree. Absolutely.
Right. Just being in the moment with the moment. So we'll come back now and breathing in more active energy and bringing back all the benefits of our awareness of trees and the blessings, the mystical blessings that they have to offer us. So solid and calm and confident. So imagine yourself or recognize yourself back in your seat as a human being, and knowing that you can return to this kind of visualization anytime. It's a beautiful one to create that place of balance, that perfect balance between heaven and earth. Breathing in more active energy now. You might want to stretch out a little bit. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Of course, we don't have to ground because we grounded ourselves already. I feel pretty grounded.
You said we were coming back and I said, "Oh."
I know. It's kind of like, it's often that way when we're
Oh,
doing these meditations. It's like,
yeah.
well, I'm not sure I really want to, but I guess we have to come back. And we
That
do.
was lovely. That was lovely. It's amazing how quickly we can connect with a tree in that way too. I felt like the tree energy was right here immediately. It wasn't
Yeah.
something I had to go anywhere to seek in this meditation. It was just immediately present. So
Yeah, Lula says I got a very deep personal insight during the tree meditation.
lovely.
I'm
That's
curious what
lovely.
that is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I think that I was thinking, well, do we want to draw another card for more insights? But I just feel like it's all there. It's there in the simplicity of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's profound and in a very wise way, you know. Yeah.
Right, right. It doesn't take something like a, and that's another thing I think about being human. Like we think it has to be this complex,
Right.
brilliant thing that we come
Right.
up with, uniquely brilliant. And here it is. It's just simple.
Right. Sometimes we just need to be reminded that it's okay to be still like a tree, just to
Mm-hmm.
pause and be
Mm-hmm.
still and not move. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
do that too. And I think that's also some of the wisdom it brings to us when it has that calming, grounding energy is just, stop what you're doing and just be still,
Right.
be
It
still and
is.
know, as the saying goes.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
It's a metaphor for source. It's a metaphor for God, be still and know. And I think trees are really good at teaching us that. And now
Mm-hmm.
I want to go sit out with some of my trees this afternoon. To go visit my
Yeah.
trees today.
Yeah. I have one of those lawn chairs, the low ones, where you sit really close and then so you can put your feet on the ground, and I'll put it under a tree in the backyard.
Nice,
We have a
yeah.
beautiful lemon tree. It
Oh,
just
those are beautiful.
it's full of, it's like so full of lemons
Oh, wow.
always.
Yeah. They're
It's
beautiful scented blossoms too. They're just
mm-hmm,
lovely. Yeah.
yeah, we have our bird feeders under that, and a hummingbird feeder. They come and they're
Nice.
attracted to
Yeah.
the blossoms. Yeah, it's beautiful having the opportunity just to connect with the simplicity of nature.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
It is. Yeah.
So, I'm going to get out my planet, and this is the time when we share the love. And it's not like we have to push it out or anything. It's just, it's flowing from us, and we can just allow it to flow into those areas that are meaningful to us. If you know people who need more love, more healing, and love is very healing. Communities, if your community could use some loving energy, just imagine that love going out to your community. Other places in the world, people in our government who could benefit from more love. Places in the world where there are wars and famines and inhumane things occurring. Just send that love. And recognize, again, as with just being a tree, all we can do is be here and offer what we have to offer. And that's enough. It's more than enough. And especially if we're committed to growing, to embracing more love within ourselves, we have more to give. That love radiates out further and brighter. Always. And blesses the world. So we can imagine the whole world now surrounded with love and what's possible there. What's possible for all the beings on the planet itself, the oceans, the deserts, the forests, and the atmosphere. The poor elemental beings, the nature spirits are overwhelmed trying to help us to keep the environment clean. Imagine if humans were cooperating with that. How clean the waters could be, how clean the air could be. And we can all be part of that, even though we're rooted here. We can't be everywhere, but we can do our part. And I sense all of the angels and masters above us saying, yes. That's more than enough. And then if you do feel like reaching out further in ways that are purposeful for you, that's beautiful too. But whatever you feel you can contribute, I think it's important to never feel that it's not enough. Because it is true, we can only play our parts. And that's where I guess that idea of command versus control becomes important. We have to surrender to the inhumanity that is occurring at the same time as we envision something that's different. So that feels so good.
It does.
Any further thoughts?
No, just invite everyone to just keep this energy with them, to just keep tuning into that beautiful tree meditation for the rest of the day. Just I feel like it's something that'll just keep giving energy, you know, and gracing us with that beautiful blessing.
My feet are tingling.
Your roots are tingling.
Yeah. So, Gretchen, would you like to tell viewers how they can find out more about you and what you're doing? About
Hey,
what you are, other than a tree?
I'm a human.
With leaves.
I'm a human with leaves. That's right. I have flowers sometimes too. So yes, thank you. People can connect with me. It's spiraljourney.net. That's my website. It has the most comprehensive list of the different things that I do. I am a coach and energy healer, and I work with women to really help them create a magical life. And if you go to my website, there is a page of free offerings that you can engage with. And I love talking to people. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can also find me on Facebook at Gretchen Comer or Spiral Journey Holistic Life Services. And yeah, love to reach out and love to talk with people. So thank you.
And for Awakenings Institute, we actually have a holistic coaching and healing program coming up in a couple weeks. If you're interested in becoming a spiritual coach and healer, you can find out more at our website. And I would recommend going to gettingthrough.org. It's gettingthrough.org/holistic. And you can find out more. There's also on that page, you can find a link to a free resource kit for lightworkers, spiritual healers, and way showers that has a whole bunch of things that you can have for free that we share as a gift. So thank you again for being here. Lula says, I'm glad I was able to join you today. I'm so inspired and recharged. And I always feel that way too. I think Gretchen
I
and
do
I,
too. Yeah,
we just, it
absolutely.
feels so good. And part of the reason for having it on Sunday morning is to bring a beautiful, loving energy into the week. So I did want to say one more thing. You can support the circle by following our page on Facebook, sharing, if you're on Facebook, sharing this video with your friends, and inviting your friends to join you in the circle, and then you have something to talk about. Then the last thing, which I was getting to, is just sending that love and light out to the week ahead, just feeling it flowing out from you all the way, filling. You can send it out as far as you can see in the future, and you can send it back to the past too. Part of our growth is reframing things that we have seen as fearful or anxiety producing or whatever, shifting them into a positive, loving perspective so we can send that back to those wounded parts of ourselves. And I invite you to have a wonderful week. We'll be back here again, same time, same place next week. So we also would invite you to join us. And thank you again for being here. Have a wonderful week.